Yes, welcome everyone to another stream. Today I have another amazing guest. It's Derek Rook. So say hi to each other.
Hey.
Yeah, I hope you all are doing fine. I just talked with Derek and he's also doing fine. And yeah, so you all know how we will do it. I will ask the questions, and if there's time left at the end, you guys can also ask questions to ask. Yeah, if you want to know something about Derek, just ask it, and yeah, we will answer them, or he will answer them, of course, not me. But but yeah, let's start and let's go to the first question. Yeah, did you went to college, or did you learn a lot on YouTube or books, or yeah?
So yeah,
I see a big smell, so
no, no, I didn't go to college, and frankly, early in my career, YouTube wasn't really a thing. So back in, I dropped out of high school in 2001, 2002, somewhere in there, and I wanted to get into tech, but it was really difficult then. I think it still is, but for different reasons. But so I hopped around a lot. I did construction and a bunch of other stuff. But no, I didn't go to college. I kind of taught myself as much as I could. I started installing Linux at home and things like that.
yeah, it sounds as a great story. And of course, if you see where you are now, I think yeah, it worked.
Mm.
And
It
yeah,
wasn't the most direct path, that's for sure.
I think we all start with playing with Kali. Do you
Mm.
do you still use Kali if I ask, or do you perhaps use Parrot OS? As I hear many people are also switching to Parrot, but yeah, no
I
opinion.
still use Kali, just out of habit, really. I mean, so my first distro was Slackware. I got a CD out of a magazine, and so I think my first security distribution was Backtrack. So, or it might have still been Auditor, but yeah. So early Kali, before it was Kali, it was like Auditor, and then it was Backtrack, and those were Slack based. And then eventually Kali. But yeah, I use it out of habit. I mean, Linux is just Linux, right? You find the package manager that you want, and then you stick with the distro that has that package manager, I think.
Yeah, I think I can agree with you. I have never tried Parrot OS, so I don't know about Parrot OS, but yeah, if it works for you, then yeah, why change? I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the first question. Let's go to the second question. Did you also, yeah, hack perhaps during your college, accidentally or on purpose? I don't know.
So I did some stupid stuff on AOL. I did definition of a script kiddie, downloaded some tools that I had no idea what they did and tried to use them, and they didn't work.
Not Mimi Kids.
Definitely no Mimi Cats at the time. This was way before that. But there were sites back then, kind of pre-Hack the Box, called Hackett's sites that were sort of like, if you've been to Over the Wire, they're just like kind of puzzle games, but they're hacker puzzle games. So they'll be like have some programming or some crypto puzzles or something like that. And so I was on a lot of those sites early on until stuff like Over the Wire came out.
Yeah, I know Over the Wire. I
Mhm.
did some challenge, not all of them, but yeah, it's a great platform. I don't know
Yeah.
the other one you mentioned before Over the Wire, but I think that is yeah they don't.
Yeah, there were many. They were called like they were called Hackett's sites, but the one that I did was Hackett's DE, and so we had an IRC channel that we played around with and things like that. But yeah, I didn't really do what I would consider real hacking until maybe 8 years ago is when I really actually started understanding what real security was and what like real hacking was.
Yeah, you were just exploring when you were very
Mhm.
young, and then you finally understand what it actually did, what you have
Yeah.
done, and now you think, hey, I really like this, and I want to continue this path.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's great, and welcome to the family. And I have one question besides the list that I've shared with you. It popped up in my mind this morning. Sans is hosting the Christmas CTF puzzle that
Yeah, yeah.
will, yeah, it will release in 2 weeks. I heard tomorrow. Can you tell us more about it, if that's allowed, or for those who doesn't know what it is, perhaps maybe explain in short what it is.
Yeah, every year, Counter Hack Challenges is Ed Scotus's company, and they work very closely with Sans in a lot of things, including Net Wars, which is Sans's big capture the flag competition that they run. But one thing that Ed's team does, Counter Hack Challenges does every year, is they create what's called the Sans Holiday Hack Challenge, and 8 years ago, 10 years, maybe not 10, but 5, 6 years ago, it was very short. Like, here's a packet capture, and you have to answer a bunch of questions about the packet capture. Modern day, the last couple of years, they build full-fledged games that you can walk around a game universe, and inside of the game are hacking challenges. And they range from offensive security, defensive security, forensics, systems administration, like all kinds of different security-based challenges, and it's free. It's completely free, and so you can submit write-ups and you can win prizes based on how good your write-up is. They leave it up all year, so if you're waiting for 2 weeks, you can actually go back and do the last year's or the year before right now to kind of prep for it and get ready for it. But it's a great way. It's a great way to practice and to learn inside of the game. They have elves, Santa's elves are in the games, and they give hints and tutorials, and there's blogs and videos that they link to, and there's a full conference that people are giving talks at and things like that. So it's a great way to learn, to be honest. And it's a great resource.
Yeah, thank you for introducing a short brief, for a short summary of the Sense Christmas CTF. And yeah, I joined last year or the year before, and yeah, it did remember me about Habbo Hotel. If you know Habbo Hotel, with some virtual character walking. Yeah, you guys do really an amazing job with making this and making the challenge. I can't imagine.
I can't take any credit. It's so I just want to clarify. I can't take any credit. The wonderful team at Counter Hack Challenges. So Ed Scotus's group, like Ron Bowes and Evan Booth, Joshua Wright, Ed Scotus. I know Dan Pendolino, and then they have like a whole team of extra people that they bring in for it as well. So, yeah, I wish I could take credit. It's a phenomenal project.
Yeah, I can imagine that there are many hours putting in the project. I think people are working overtime there.
Yeah,
to make this. But it's a fun project, and I think they are happy to work at it. Let's go back to the questions. But thank you for answering this one.
Sure.
Why did you join the InfoSec field? You were telling us that you were young and you were exploring the world of security. You played with some tools, and then once you understand, you dived in the field.
It was always a goal. When I was pretty young, there was a movie that came out in the early 90s, mid 90s, I forget, called Sneakers. And if you haven't seen Sneakers, you need to see Sneakers. It's probably the best, most realistic today, hacker movie that exists. And it holds up even though it was written and directed so long ago. But I saw that movie and said, well, that looks like fun. I want to do that. And then as I kind of grew up, I found out that was really a job. And that's what I wanted to do. The problem is when I started working in like 99-ish is when I got my first tech job. Not a lot of companies had dedicated security teams. It was really just like the really big companies like big banks and things like that had their own security companies, and otherwise it was just IT people that also did security sometimes. And so it was a really hard field to get into. I wanted to. So it was just something I kind of worked on for a really long time. I got my first job with security in the title 6 years ago. So what is that? 2014 is the first time I had like security engineer in my title.
Well, yeah, it's really interesting how you joined this field, and yeah, I'm glad it paid off, of course. And yeah, I'm wondering, before you were working, before you applied for a job, did you do perhaps an offensive security certification or any other certification? What was your first certification? Or
Yeah, so my first cert was the GCIA, so that was a SANS certification. I was working as a systems engineer for Skechers, the shoe company, and my boss heard about this class and he said, "Hey, this is about the GCIA is the intrusion analysis class, so it's like packet analysis and packet capturing and things like that." And he was an old school network engineer, and he's like, "Hey, this class looks really good. I think you should go. I think it'd be good for you." And he knew that I was interested in security, so I got to go. And that was really my first formal security training. And that really opened the door. I mean, obviously, once I started taking SANS classes, I continued to take SANS classes. I met a lot of people in the SANS organization, and now I teach for them. So obviously, that path was very fortuitous for me, but it was also just a phenomenal class, and it taught me a ton.
well, I see in the chat room that someone already was thinking like me. You were telling us that your first certificate was yeah, the GI of the GCIA, but yeah, the costs are expensive. So who paid for it? The company, or did you save money?
The company did. It was cheaper then. So the prices have gone up. I think when I took it, it was like 5,000 for the class and the cert. So it's more now. But there were people in my class that paid for it themselves, which I thought was incredible.
Yeah, it's
The
really
the reality is, once companies should be paying for training, like the companies have the money, and in our field, we are. It's required that we continue our education and stay on top of developing technology and developing events, and it's unreasonable to expect people to do that themselves. That's a lot of money and time investment on top of our full-time jobs. So I know it's not as common as it should be, but I firmly believe, and I have left companies that don't have training budgets. I have a training budget for my team. I send my people to training. It's something I believe in that needs to happen.
yeah. I totally agree with you on that. I think companies should pay for education to get their employees more education, and yeah, they will, of course, be smarter, and yeah, eventually the profit will also go to the company because they can do their work better, and yeah, the company will get hired more because you have amazing people, your people are really good, we want you. So yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, it's a win-win situation if I can see it in my eyes. But yeah, as you just said, not every company sees it that way, unfortunately, or they don't have, of course, the money to pay that much for people to.
They generally have the money.
Yeah, yeah, of
They
course.
have the money. Like 10,000 it's about 10,000 with travel from my budget, and that's a lot of money to us. But unless it's an extremely small company or a nonprofit, $10,000 is not a lot of money, especially when it costs more than $10,000 to hire somebody. When you talk about the fact that you don't have somebody doing the job and the hours that you spend recruiting and trying to hire, it's expensive to hire. So if it's train this person and make them a better employee, or eventually see them walk because they're not valued enough and have to rehire, you're actually losing money if they leave. So like there's a lot of budget. So as a manager now, I think about this stuff a lot, and I actually deal with this stuff a lot. But it's not actually as expensive to train people as they like to make it out to be.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I'm happy that you are one of the managers or the people who are trying to get companies paid for the people, and yeah, courses should be paid by the company. And yeah, I totally agree with you. And I can see you are standing right now, so you are thinking about your health too. So yeah, that's really amazing.
I fidget too much. I can't sit too long. But yeah.
No. It is good. It's good that you are also thinking about your health and standing. Let's go to the next question. Did you succeed at your first attempt, or did you need to try it again?
I did because that was such an amazing opportunity. I actually asked my boss, as if what they did wasn't enough. I actually asked my boss for a couple days off. So I took there was a 3-day weekend, and I took a couple days as well. So I had 5 days, and I spent that entire 5 days basically just studying and to make sure that I passed the exam. Um, but yeah, I did pass that. It was not easy, but.
Yeah, I can totally imagine it. It is of course not easy. Uh, if I can imagine the exam, is it like offensive security, a 24 hours exam, or is it multiple choice, or what can I
No, it's
imagine?
yeah. So the GCIA, GIAC, which is the certification body that does the certs for SANS classes, or they're not for SANS classes, but they're the ones who do the certs. The majority of their tests are multiple choice. However, in the last year or two, they've been converting some of their exams to have practical questions as well. So the class that I teach now has practical questions in addition to multiple choice, and they're open book. Um, but the thing about them is that they're timed. So there's like 100 questions, and you have like 2.5 hours or three. I forget the exact time amount, but you have like 2.5 hours to answer them. So you can technically look up all of the questions because you have your books and your notes and everything, but you don't have time.
Yeah.
So you really have to kind of know the material and know what they're asking and things like that. And then with the practical questions, you're actually doing things like uh, troubleshooting scripts or evaluating config files or whatever the subject is. So for GCIA, when I took it, it was all multiple choice. I'm not sure if it's practical now or not. But it was what it is it's a lot of like, here is a screenshot, or here is some output from TCP dump. Um, what kind of a packet is this? What kind of an attack is this? Choose the snort rule that would detect this style of attack, things like that.
Yeah, it sounds really a heavy exam with 100 questions and 2 hours.
Yeah.
And do you also have your book with you and uh, stickers on every important page?
Yeah. So it is open book. You're allowed to carry an armful of hard copy notes. So typically people take in their books that are all highlighted and stickered and everything, and your indexes. I saw Glasswalkers in the chat, and he mentioned indexing, and that's a big part of studying for a SANS exam, is creating an index for your books. You can print out help files and things like that. But again, you just don't have a lot of time. So it's
Yeah.
more reserved for the things you're unsure about, or you're like, I don't really know if this is the right answer, so you can look it up quick. But you just don't have time to look up every single question.
Well, thank you for answering this, and yeah, I will put it on my notes if I will ever do a sense cert. I hope I will do, of course. Let's go to the next question. Yeah, I see you are currently working for Sense as a teacher. Yeah, how is that? How is the experience as a teacher? And yeah, can you tell us more about the job? Or,
Yeah, so I personally love it. I don't think it's a job for everybody. So the first thing about being a SANS instructor is it can't be your only job, and SANS is actually very adamant about making sure that there are no full-time teachers. They want people who are in the industry, in the field, that are doing the work. And then what that does when we teach a class is we have real life examples and we have stories, and we're like, this sounds lame, but let me tell you why this is important and how it applies. And I was just on an engagement last week, and I came across this, and it that is, I think, what provides the value in SANS. When I took my first class, it was from a gentleman named Mike Poor, who is a legend in packet analysis and worked on Snort and all of this stuff. And the reality is that information is out there, right? If you had time and the patience and the knowledge, you could accumulate whatever knowledge is in a class. However, like, you can accumulate that if you needed to, but the people presenting it and the people providing the relevance and the background, I think, is where the value is. So my first class, my second class, I got really into SANS, and I had the opportunity to speak at one of their conferences, and I was approached and asked if I would consider teaching for SANS. Now, when you do that, when they approach you to teach for SANS, it's not like they decided that you'd be good and you're hired. It's now you start the process, and so you have to go through classes on how to teach, how to communicate. You go through a lot of different workshops on just being a presenter. And how to be a presenter, and how to get points across, and how to deal with students that are being problematic. Either they're distracting the class, or they're being disrespectful, or they're just not even problematic as in being a problem to the class, but some people learn differently. And you have to be able to recognize that people are struggling and figure out how to help educate them as well, right? Because this is important. Public school. There is no like, oh, well, they'll just go on. Like, they need this for their work, so they need to understand it. And so we learn different ways of teaching people different things. It's incredibly rewarding, but I have a full-time job and I do that on the side, so it's very busy. But I think it's worth it. I love teaching. It is. Which is weird to say as a high school dropout, but I really do. I love teaching people, and I love the look on their face when they pop their first shell, or when they have been struggling with something or have heard of a technique, like teaching people cross-site scripting. So few people come into my class actually knowing what cross-site scripting is. They've heard the word, but they've never done it before, and then they do it and they understand it, and that look on their face is priceless. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, the face they make when you explain something, and it works, and they think, what? What did I do? Oh, it works. Yeah. That moment, that feeling. Yeah, I know what you're saying, as I also love to teach people and help them. I am not really. I'm not like you, really experienced yet as a teacher. I have no courses, but you have done for SANS. It also sounds really good what SANS is doing. They teach the people how to teach, so that makes sense. Also great, I think, because
I mean, I got my start streaming. Like, I was doing my videos before I started teaching for them. And doing YouTube and Twitch and things like that is just as impactful, I think. So if you like doing it, just keep doing it.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now with Twitch and YouTube, trying to teach people. So far I can, of course. I'm not IPSec or some other or you or. But I like the idea that SANS is putting a lot of time in their people and their training about how to teach people. And I have one question: did you ever had the situation where you give a class, but someone was really annoying? And if you had that situation, how did you approach that situation? How did you ask the boy or girl to stop what he's doing and pay attention? Because for me, I can't imagine that someone is going to be annoying if he pays 5K for a course. In my eyes, I think
it's hard. So you get people that their company is paid for it and they don't really want to be there, or uh, the hard one is when you're in a city that people like. So like teaching in Florida is really hard because you're in Orlando and Disney World is like 5 minutes away, and so you'll get people that show up for a day and then they're gone for a day and then they show up for a day. So there's a varying amount of people that either are really engaged in the class and some people that just aren't. Um, I haven't had anybody ever just be flagrantly rude for no reason. I mean, at this point, we're all adults. It's not like high school. We're all adults, and we're all there because it's our job, whether or not they're really interested or not. Um, we I've had a few people that felt that they were above the material, or that they, were disappointed. Classes start really slow because we don't have. It's not like when people come to my class, they've already taken these other 8 classes, so I have a good idea of what they already know. Sans classes day one is not a write-off day, but it's kind of a let's get everybody on the same page day. And so for some people, it's going to be a very advanced day, and for some people, it's going to be a very slow day. But it's really just, okay, here is the foundational knowledge you need to be able to succeed the next couple of days. And I've had a few people start getting a little snarky on day one, and it's important to very calmly remind them of the fact that kind of everybody is in a different spot. Sometimes it's as much as just like, saying something during break and being like, hey man, like, I can tell that you're probably a little more advanced than day one. Just bear with me. Like we're gonna start accelerating very quickly. And sometimes it's like, if there's something you need to know, like if we're not hitting the points you need, just ask or let me know, and I can fill those in for you. And I think once they realize that I'm there to help them too, they tend to calm down a little bit. I've never had to
Interfere with someone.
I've never had to like kind of put somebody in their place, which is nice. I don't. I've heard stories of people, not SANS instructors, but I've heard stories of other technical instructors where they're like, you get the student thinks they're too smart, and you just kind of have to knock them down a few pegs to get them to shut up. And I've never had to do that. And so I don't know if I'm fortunate for that, or if it's just my personality that kind of.
I think you are lucky.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, I really hate those people who think they're smart, because everyone starts from zero or from some point. So yeah, you need to help each other and respect each other, and yeah, everyone starts from zero. So yeah, someone just needs some more time. No, so who cares? You need some more time.
Exactly.
So yeah, but it's nice to hear that you are really doing your teacher job good so far. So no complaints yet. But if you can imagine a scenario where someone is really annoying, what will you do?
Yeah, so it depends. So one thing that we do as SANS instructors, one thing that we go through as part of our training is kind of the nightmare scenario where you'll have several instructors in a room, and one instructor will be teaching, and the several instructors are just being really awful students. And so they're like throwing stuff at each other, or they're like starting phone calls and asking, irrelevant questions and things like that. And the entire point of this exercise is to see how you deal with that that kind of scenario. Like basically see how you react to just really bad situations. And do you crumble? Do you get frustrated? Do you get mad? Does it throw you off your game? That kind of stuff. So we're trained to deal with that. And so a lot of it is, hey, either body language can play a big role. So if somebody is just being like obnoxious, or like texting or watching a YouTube video or something while you're speaking, you don't even have to stop teaching. You can just kind of like walk towards them, and if you just like stand in front of them you don't even have to glare at them. You just teach from like right in front of them. They tend to kind of back down and pay attention, or at least stop doing whatever they're doing. I think um, a more extreme scenario um, would be, where they're just not, and they're being really disruptive to other people. If they're only disruptive to themselves, who cares? If they don't want that education, that's fine. But if they're really disrupting other people and they're being really obnoxious and they're lowering the value for the rest of the class, then I'd probably ask to talk to them. And if it got bad enough where I had to stop like the class, then I would, but I would try and wait until a break. But just be like, hey man, like we all paid a lot of money to be here. Like, the students are trying to get value out of this. And if you, one thing that SANS does is they'll let you switch classes. So if you
that's nice.
be like, hey, if you feel like you're in the wrong class, there are 5 other classes, and like you can switch to this other class that's at this training if you think it would be better for you. But I mean, at a certain point you have to talk to each other like adults and be like, look, I don't know what the problem here is, but we need to figure it out so that we can get through this week together, because we're in this week together.
Yeah, exactly.
But like I said, I think that would be a really extreme scenario. We have a lot of more passive aggressive ways to get people to pay attention.
It does remember me when I was on college some couple years ago, and I was playing a game in the class, and when he walks towards me, I was, oh shit, shift escape, go away.
Yeah.
But now I am on the other side and trying to teach people. I can understand the frustration from the teacher when he's doing his best to explain something, and you are just there. Oh, I'm watching YouTube. Yeah, exactly.
to be a teacher, man. Yeah.
You put a lot of effort and time in the course, in the presentation, in your own time, of course, and they are that. And I also saw someone in the chat mentioned about the facilitator program. Yeah, sorry, I can't.
Oh yeah.
But can you explain more about it? Because it kind of triggered my interest for that program.
So facilitator is a way. It's kind of like what Glasswalker said. By the way, hi Glasswalker. He's a buddy of mine. So it's it's not quite a teacher's assistant where you don't necessarily help with the teaching of the class, but you help the instructor. So things like passing stuff out to the class. If there's a problem in the room, so like if the AC is if the air conditioning is like way too high and everybody's like literally freezing, I can't leave the class because I have to teach the class, but somebody needs to go get the hotel staff, somebody. So they're there to kind of
support,
run errands. I tend not to need that very often outside of like emergencies. Some instructors do need it more often than others, but it's really more like if I need to pass something out, they're the ones that's going to pass it out, kind of stuff. But in return for that amount of work, there's a pretty steep discount. I forget what it is. I don't want to quote a number because I might be wrong. But it used to be like $1,500. So instead of the 7,000 or whatever it was $1,500. I think it's more now, but I don't know. Don't quote me. But it's like $1,500. You also get the on-demand content because again, if I'm sending people out of the room, then they're not hearing me teach. So they also get the on-demand content as well, so they can go back and kind of take the class and see the stuff that they missed. But yeah, so it's a pretty steep discount.
It sounds
so they show up a little early, earlier than you would normally need to for class. They help with the grading of the evaluations, and so they're usually there a little bit later. So it is work. I mean, it's not a huge discount for free, but it is a way, especially as Glasswalker said, if they're paying their own way, it's a way to be able to do that. And so I don't have the link in front of me, but it's called, the official word is the work study program. So if you Google for SANS work study program, you'll be able to find.
You'll find it. It sounds really. I think I'm going to try it to. yeah, to apply for it, as it really sounds cool to also help. And I think besides the discounts, you also will meet a lot of great people in the field. So I think that's also a win-win situation. But
Absolutely.
are there any requirements, like you need to have 3 years of experience, or you need to have this, or you can just apply?
No. So yeah, you apply. I mean, so when you get in, and I haven't done this, but I have a little bit of experience working with them. So I know that there's like requirements if you get accepted. Things like they want you to dress nice. So like not a suit and tie or anything, but I think they ask for like a collared shirt if you're a guy. So they, because you're there, even though you don't work for Sands at that point, you're still representing Sands as somebody who's helping with the
Yeah.
event. And so there are some like codes of conduct that you have to follow. Really just don't be a jerk kind of stuff. But no, there's no like minimum requirements. And honestly, a lot of the people that I've worked with, it's been their first Sands class, or they're just getting into security. And so there's a great there's a it's a great opportunity for people just trying to break in. To answer the question in chat, no, there's no like college I college dropout and I teach for them. They don't have college requirements.
Yeah,
You just have to qualify. But no, there's no like professional or education requirements to do that.
whoa,
It
that's
is competitive. I mean, it's a good deal, so a lot of people apply for it. So it may take several attempts to apply and get accepted. But no, there's no knowledge requirements.
yeah, that was my next question. If it is really a great deal, and I think yeah, thousands of people or more than thousands perhaps are applying for this. So yeah, the chance of you getting selected, you need to apply. I think multiple times, as you said. But yeah, it's really yeah, it's a nice opportunity, and I didn't even know about this opportunity. So thank you for telling us. And I will definitely look at after this stream. I will definitely look it up, and yeah, perhaps try to apply for the next class.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on right now because because of COVID, we're not doing
Yeah,
any
of
in-person
course.
classes. So I don't know if they're doing it for virtual classes. But as soon as we start doing in-person classes again, I highly recommend checking it out.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying this. I think many of us who are watching right now didn't even knew this. So yeah, it's really great. Let's go to the next question. Yeah, you are working as a teacher. You said. Do you give one specific class, or do you teach multiple classes? In the sentence of yeah, courses. So do you give one course or multiple courses?
Yeah, so right now the only course that I teach is 504, which is the Hacker Techniques and Incident Handling class. I Yeah, so when you first start teaching, and I've only been teaching for SANS for about a year and a half now, when you first start teaching, they just want you to focus on one class, because as we've talked about, it's a lot of work and there's a lot going on, so they don't want you to complicate that by also trying to learn to teach multiple classes. Because taking a class and being able to teach that class, as I'm sure you've learned as you try and teach stuff on your Twitch stream, like it's much more involved.
Yeah,
You need to the class needs to be about, they say it needs to be about 10 to 20% of your knowledge. If you're teaching 90% of your knowledge, then you're just not going to be able to field all of the questions that get asked and things like that. So you have to know so much more than just the material, and doing that for multiple classes. But I am able to teach a couple other classes, and so as I get out of my trial period, I'll probably expand to probably web apps or something else.
so you are still in your trial period,
I'm a
or how you
certified
call it?
instructor, so I'm not in the trials. There's actually a specific phase of teaching that's called the trials before you become a certified instructor. But
Uh,
I'm still early in being a certified instructor.
so within of your goal for 2021 is a certified sense teacher.
Yeah, I mean, well, so I am a certified SANS instructor, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
can
mean out of the
sure.
trial.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. I like the class I teach, so I'm not in a super hurry to get out of that. What's great about 504 is it is a purple class, so it's hacker techniques and incident handling, which are two separate sides of the coin. But what its focus is incident handling. So how do you handle an incident? So it is for blue teamers for the most part, but it teaches them the offensive techniques that they're responding against. So it's generally, I like to say that as a red course, it's probably very fundamental, but as a blue team course, it's probably the only red course that a blue teamer will take. And so when I talk about like the first time somebody pops a shell, very few people that enter my class have ever gotten a shell or a reverse shell or used Metasploit or done cross-site scripting or SQL injection attacks or anything like that. So I get to walk them through their first time hacking a thing, and I love doing that. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can't imagine how much fun it is seeing someone popping their first shell and they think, "Whoa, I got it!
This is magic."
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is magic. I am a hacker. Can you see me
Yeah.
all here? We all have that feeling once in our life, I think. Well, thank you for answering. And yeah, you already told it many times. How does it feel to help others? But yeah, you already answered that because yeah, you said it was an amazing feeling and you liked it, and seeing all the people popping their shell, yeah, it makes you feeling really proud and yeah, amazing. So we just skip this question. Let's go to the next question. You are a teacher, so from the teacher perspective, what will be your advice to a person who has no idea where to begin learning for hacking, or even where to start in the infosec field? Well, as a perspective as a teacher, what would you advise this person to do?
Yeah, so that's hard. I don't think there's any one best path for this. Um, my path, I think, helped me in that I got a lot of experience doing non-security things first. And so I was in help desk. I was in web development. I was in systems administration. I was in security, or I was in systems engineering. I was in automation and all of these other things. And so when I got into security, when I moved to security and I moved to hacking, I already knew how everything worked. And the reality is that there's really no such thing as security in a vacuum, right? Like security itself, really, when you get down to it, is really just advanced system administration or advanced development. Hacking is not anything beyond advanced development and advanced systems administration. It's just knowing how well something works, or knowing how something works well enough to break it. And so if you have the time, which I don't recommend, I mean, it took me 18 years to go from like my first tech job to getting the job I wanted, but it did well for me. Short of that, I'm very adamant, and I know this isn't a super popular opinion, but I'm very adamant that offensive security is not an entry-level job. Um, Security, I don't think should be, but I guess could be. But really, I would recommend somebody either take a development job for a few years, or take a systems admin job, or a network engineering job, or just learn about the systems first, and then start practicing security on top of it. I think will get you a much better path. I have a junior engineer right now on my team, and she just graduated college, and it wasn't. I would not have normally hired somebody fresh out of college before, but she had been an intern at our company, and she did really well for the team that she had worked for, and I had an open headcount and others didn't. So I said, okay, well, you have to apply. I mean, I can't just hire you. Like, you have to go through the interview process, and she crushed it. And she worked her ass off during the interview process and did well. And she earned her spot on our team, but she's still working her ass off to make up for the lack of background. And so, I don't. And so, why I mention that is it's not an entry level job, is not a 100% rule. I don't believe in 100% rules, but it's a pretty wide rule. It's outside of some very rare exceptions. I would not recommend jumping into hacking immediately.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I see on the chat there are more people who are agreeing with you. And yeah, also a big point of infosecurity is that you want to learn, and you don't mind learning and keep learning, and yeah, you need to keep learning probably your entire life till you get with.
If you ever stop, till you stop, you fall off the train. That's like, you can't, and that's okay. I mean, I think it's okay to stop once you're done, but you basically have to get off the ride at that point. It's detrimental to see people stop learning and then stay in the field and really just kind of stagnate. I think there's it's hard. You have to keep learning, or else you're not going to be relevant.
You need to have that mind to want to learn, and to do it actually, instead of saying you want to learn, but you also need to do it, of course.
Exactly.
But your advice is really great, and I see on the chat that many people all agree with you, and they are really happy with your advice. So thank you for that. Let's go to the next question. We are going a little bit out of the cyber field now with the next questions, so don't mind me. I see on your Twitter you love hockey. What is your favorite hockey team?
So my home team's the Anaheim Ducks. So we don't have a hockey team here in San Diego, but the closest one we have is the Ducks. I grew up playing hockey, which is kind of unusual in... get out of here, Glasswalker. I grew up playing hockey, so it's rare in San Diego. But one thing that really impacted me growing up was the lack of hockey culture in San Diego. And so Glasswalker mentions the Gulls. So when I was growing up, the Gulls were like a minor league team. They are now a minor league team, and they actually are the farm team for the Ducks. So they're kind of the same organization. But so I'm actually a fan of all three of the California teams, which is rare because like they're rivals. But I was at a game for every round of the playoffs that the Ducks won their first cup, and I was at a game for every round of the playoffs that the Kings won their first cup. I was actually living in LA when the Kings won their cup, so I feel like I have a right to be a Kings fan as well, because I lived in LA and was a fan of theirs. I'm also a fan of San Jose, but the Ducks are my number one team, and then I kind of, as whoever's doing the best or whoever's not playing, then I'll root for the others too.
And if I mind asking, if there's a match between the Ducks and the Ghouls, do you watch it together with Glasswalker, and do you yell at each other like "Boo, Boo Ducks"?
We haven't watched hockey together. So Glasswalker grew up. We went to high school together, but Glasswalker moved away, so I don't get to see him as much as we used to. But yeah, I'd totally go see a Kings game or a Ducks game with him. It'd be fun. Maybe 2021 or 2022. Yeah, we did drop out of high school together.
I see already the picture in front of me. You watching on the left side. He is sitting on the right side with a wall between you. And when one of the teams scores, you will throw something at the other. Like, yeah, look, we have it.
I think that's a good idea. We should live stream it.
I think many people will watch it. I also saw on your Twitter that you liked Kendoka. Can you explain to us what it actually is? And yeah.
Yeah, so kendoka is the word that means practitioner of kendo, and so a kendoka is a person, and what kendo is a Japanese martial art where you learn sword, basically sword fighting,
Whoa, that's
and
cool.
so I've taken that for a few years. I haven't been to the dojo in a while, but I still practice at home from time to time.
Because of
Yeah,
COVID?
if you, what's that?
Because of COVID-19, you can't go to the dojo, I think.
Well, I moved away from my dojo. It's not very popular in the U.S. It's very popular in Japan, but in the U.S. it's not very popular. So I moved away from my dojo. It's about an hour and a half away, so I don't get
Uh,
there very often. Um, but yeah, so yeah, as chat mentions, in practice we use shinai, which is a facsimile sword that's made out of 4 strips of bamboo, and we do dress up in armor to protect ourselves because bamboo still hurts, especially if you get hit in the place where you're not armored. Uh, but we also use a facsimile sword called boken, which is a solid oak. Well, some people use plastic, but traditionally they're made out of solid oak, and they actually are in the shape of a katana. And we use those for like kata. So for the non-hitting, non-sparring kind of sword form, we use those as well.
so I can already imagine the answer you will give when I will ask your weapon of choice. You will probably choose a katana or something, but
Yeah,
we,
I'm
we will leave it
sticking
for
with
that.
well, or a bow. So I also practice archery, and I actually have I have a like an old style Norse sword as well here. So
You
either sword or bow, depending on the range.
do you also watch fantasy movies from?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, always see people who are watching fantasy, who love fantasy. Yeah, they mostly practice sword fighting and archery, as you just mentioned. It's nice to see that people are still doing the sports as it still is amazing, of course. But happy to see that you're also doing things outside the computer, of course, and not only in the computer. Do you spend a lot of time outside the computer, like every weekend, or do you have a program for that? Because you have also
not
probably kids and wife, I think. Or
we don't have kids,
not yet.
but no, 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 we're not a kids folks. But not as much during COVID. I mean, COVID, we've been inside pretty much this whole time. I mean, we get out, we go for drives occasionally, um, but we've mostly been inside. Um,
Yeah.
Outside of COVID, we spend a lot of time outside, or not necessarily outdoors, but especially in the summer. You know, we have Renaissance fairs here in San Diego, and so during the summer we'll go to those. Um, I'm actually Friday. We're gonna go shoot some archery with some friends because you
Ah,
obviously can do that distant. You should not be shooting archery up close. Um, but
funny.
so we do get outside, but not nearly as much. I spend most of my time either in my office or
So
hanging out with my wife.
I can imagine that you are spending more time behind your computer now because of COVID, or do you also?
Yeah,
Yeah, I was
yeah,
already thinking something like that. I think many of us are spending more time behind the computer. But it's nice to see that you have so many sports and activities that you do besides just only learning, and yeah, it's nice to also give your mind some time to, yeah, how do you say it in English, to process that information that you obtain from the computer, and yeah, just leave it. And
exactly. And even just relax and kind of regenerate a little bit. Like burnout is really
yeah,
really common in our industry, and you need hobbies that aren't technical hobbies. And that's not something I understood for a long time. And I've been through burnout a couple different times, and it's rough, and it takes a long time to recover from it. So find a non-technical hobby, at least one.
I totally agree with that. I see many people who I talk with, like you, and I have some other guests in my show. And yeah, they all had a burnout or know people with burnouts, and yeah, I have never have a burnout, but from you and the others, I think it's not really fun to have, of course. So yeah, it's good advice for to also hear people like you were saying that you also should have a hobby outside of computer hacking. And
Yeah.
but thank you for answering the question, and let's go to the last question. Then we will go to the 5 questions of shame, and then I saw there were some questions in the chat. We will answer them. Let's go to the last one. Do you have any advice or tips for the viewers who want to start with hacking? Perhaps some course or books you want to mention that you really.
Yeah. So I mentioned when we first started that like YouTube wasn't really a thing when I first started getting into this. And one of the wonderful things about the internet, and I don't think the internet has fulfilled all of its promises from the 90s, but one of the beautiful things about the internet is that there's just so much information out there. And one of the reasons that I run I haven't done a lot of videos lately. I think even somebody called me out on that earlier. But one of the reasons that I have my YouTube channel is to try and be that resource that I wish I had before. So people like IPSec and Live Overflow and maybe my channel and your channel are all phenomenal resources. Sans has a lot of webcasts that they put on. There's a wealth of information out there, and then there's resources like Hack the Box that give you an environment to practice in, which is another thing that I just didn't really exist in the 90s. You either had a home network that you practiced on, or you literally broke the law. Like there weren't places like Hack the Box or Pentester Academy that gave you these resources, or VulnHub. So what I would say, in addition to get a job that lets you operate these things, not just break these things, but like if you're getting into the industry, just hack. Like find these resources and hack and learn. And the more you do it, the more the dots will start to connect. So you'll learn a little bit about Linux, and then you'll learn a little bit about databases, and then you'll learn a little bit about SQL injection. You'll be like, oh, all I'm really doing is just doing SQL administration through this web interface that allows me to do it, that shouldn't allow me to do it, right? But and you start to connect disparate dots. And that's really all experience is just learning discrete bits of information, and then slowly learning so much that they kind of start conjoining together. And then you can draw like, okay, I'm in a PHP web app and it's running on Linux, so I should be able to do these kinds of attacks. Or I'm see this network port, I see this NFS network port, and I know that I can scan and mount NFS shares, and now I've got somebody's SSH key. The more you learn, the more you do it, the more tricks you get, the more you'll be able to do. And also, don't view them as tricks. The last bit of advice. When I interview people, one thing that I see a lot is we have like a kind of almost like a CTF. There's no flags and there's no points, but there's a vulnerable VM that I made with my team, and part of the interview is let's hack together. And so we're not there just to judge. We're there to see team dynamic and things like that. But one thing I see is that somebody will get to a login prompt and they will immediately do the normal SQL injection, like the single quote or one is one tag,
or one's
or
one,
whatever.
yeah.
And we'll ask like, okay, why did you do that? What are you trying to do? It doesn't work because that's not vulnerable to SQL injection in ours. And we'll ask them about that, and they're like, well, I see the login, so I try to do SQL injection. And I'm like, okay, is there other SQL injection? And what I see is that people have this kind of challenge response sort of behavior when hacking. So they see, oh, there's a search bar, so I'm going to do script alert document.cookie and script. And it's like, okay, but why did you do that? Like, what are you attempting to do? Like, what is the point of this? And they're like, well, I saw a search box, so I tried to do cross-site scripting. And I refer to that as an incantation, which is really just I know the magic word to make the spell happen, but they don't know the technology under it, why that works. And so I tend to pass on those people because our entire job, as we were talking about earlier, you kind of have to continuously learn, but you can't stop at the how and the what. Like, I did this thing by doing this thing. You have to go deeper than that. You have to understand why it's working. You need to understand that cross-site scripting is really a reflected JavaScript attack where you're getting somebody's browser to process JavaScript. And once you know that, you're not bound to just alert document.cookie. You can do the whole world of JavaScript, right? Like, there's way more than just like stealing a cookie or doing some other thing. You're running JavaScript on somebody's browser, and you can do a lot with that. Once you recognize that SQL injection isn't just an authentication bypass, it's the world of SQL statements that you're able to inject into this and read data from the database and maybe even write files to the file system or execute code. Knowing the underlying system is so important. So that's my rant.
Perhaps enable XP underscore CMD show.
Yeah.
That's a funny one.
If you're on an MS SQL server, heck yeah, man. And that's important to know that exists.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that you should know why it's working, and yeah, not only that, oh, I do this, oh, it's working, great, we have vulnerability, and let's talk to the employee, hey, we have found this. Okay, great, and now? No, but thank you for the advice, and I think people who are watching are happy with your advice, and yeah. And yeah, let's dive to the 5 questions of shame, and then let's answer the questions from the people. So let me grab the 5 questions of shame. Yes, here I have them. The first one: which hero will you be? You can choose any hero from television shows, comic books, movies, games, whatever you want.
Wow.
Well, you love katanas, so perhaps a hero with.
But you know, I think I would be. I think I'd be Daniel Jackson from Stargate.
That's the first time I hear this, but yeah, I think.
Stargate is one of my favorite shows, and Daniel Jackson is a scholar, but in the TV show he also becomes a pretty badass warrior too. So he's. I like that he's an intellect, not just an action hero.
Yeah, I think it fits you, that hero. Now, let's go to the next question. If you can choose 2 parents from any TV show, books, movie, again, whatever you want, which 2 parents would you choose?
Morticia and Gomez Addams. Hands down. Addams Family is the most accepting, kind family on television. Like, they're one of the few couples on television that actually love each other and don't steer into the trope of like this unhappy marriage, and they just accept people into their family without hesitation. I saw a tweet recently where somebody was saying that like a lot of the Addams Family movies are about people trying to con the Addams Family out of their money, which is ridiculous, because if they would have just asked saying, hey, I need help, they would have just given it to them. And like it's such a I mean I grew up goth, so I guess it's kind of a trope, but like it's so counter to the way I think a lot of people view goth people, you know, yeah, they're a little quirky, sure, but they're also just an extremely loving and accepting family.
Yeah, I always liked the hand, wherever he's walking and what he's doing.
Yeah.
I always think about the hand when someone is mentioning the Addams Family. I think, oh, yeah, it's the hand. But thank you for the answer. Let's go to the 3rd question. I already spoiled it, but what will be your weapon of choice? You could choose any weapon.
Yeah, so I'd say either a katana or a bow.
You will be
I like shooting longbow best, but I think a recurve is more effective. So
or lightsaber.
I don't think I'm good enough to use a lightsaber. I think I'd end up lopping off
Your hands.
yeah. I don't think I think it's a good idea, but I think I'd lose an arm.
Well, if you lose your arm, you can join the NS family, and your arm
Oh, there
can
you
then
go.
join can the other arm of the hand. Okay, let's go to the next question. In a game of scissor, paper, and rock, what will be your first choice?
Whoa. I let my subconscious decide. At this very moment, I'd go scissors.
The scissors, the old-fashioned scissors.
Yeah, so we used to play a live action role playing game that uh, did paper rock scissors as its mechanism, and yeah, I wouldn't know what I'm throwing until I threw it. I just throw it and
You just
let
one, two,
fate
three,
decide.
boom.
Yeah, as random as possible.
Nah, it sounds fair. And scissor is, I think, a good choice, but yeah. Now, the last question of the 5 questions of shame. What will be your ultimate hacker name? So you are the first person on the earth to register a hacker name. What will it be?
Oh man, I would choose Rook. So I'm really happy with my last name, and I use Rook in a lot of places, but so many other people have it that it's hard to like. It's always taken. So if I was the first person, I would take just Rook, just my name,
Just
and then
your
everybody else would have to choose something else.
any special characters in your rook, like
No,
Air zero
no,
zero. Yeah.
no, man, and that's what I mean is that I have to have all those stupid special characters because everybody already has just Rook.
Well, perhaps you can kindly ask them to remove their name,
Yeah,
because you are the only one rook.
it's me. It's my name.
It's
Yeah.
my name. It belongs to me. Give it. Well, this was the 5 questions of shame. So let me check the chat. I saw some questions. Let me go. There's one question about your videos. Indeed, why did you stop making Hack the Box videos?
I didn't stop. I just don't do it as much as I used to. So I've lately tried to be on a cadence of monthly, though I think it's been a little over a month since my last one. There was a while where it was like a year. It goes back to burnout. So I have a day job where I work 40-ish hours a week. I teach for SANS where I teach 6 to 10 weeks a year. And then I was doing my YouTube for once a week for a while. And what people don't understand is that, and I'm sure you know this now, if I do a 4-hour stream, and somehow I could never do less than a 4, like I would be like, oh, I'll just jump on for 45 minutes, and then like 3 hours later, I'd still be streaming. But like a 4-hour stream is not just like, oh, it's 4 hours, right? It's at least a few hours of figuring out what I'm going to stream. If it's a recap of a box, like a walkthrough of a box, then I've got to do the box. So that's 8-ish hours more. To be able to explain something, you have to understand it really well. So there's even a couple more hours where you're like researching and be like, okay, but why does that actually work? What is the underlying mechanism here?
Yeah.
There's some editing on the back end, maybe. Like there's a lot of work that goes into a single like couple hour stream. And so that was essentially like 3 jobs I was working at the time, and I just burnt out and I couldn't keep up with it. And so one of my things is that I make decent money, so I don't want to monetize my channel. And that's not to say anything against people that monetize their channels. It's just I wanted mine to be free, and no ads, so I don't get paid for it. And the other 2 do pay me, and so something had to drop. And so I like streaming. I like doing it, but I don't think I'll ever get back to like the weekly that I was doing before. Monthly-ish, I think, is a pretty good cadence. So that's kind of what I'm sticking to. So I think it's been about a month and a half, so it's about time to stream. I was going to stream the other week and my computer blew up, so I had to build a new one. But
holy shit.
The next week or 2, I'll be doing another stream.
Yeah, I can imagine it with a full-time job, your wife, your archery and the sense classes, and of course you get probably a lot of questions from people who are doing your course right now or who have the books and want you to ask something. So you need to answer your mails properly, and making YouTube videos, Twitch. It's all about time management, and
There's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of time. I can't say that I have the same because I am still a student, so I mostly am busy with my final college project right now, and I just choose to not stream a lot because I need to focus on that. It is really important for me.
Yeah.
But I can understand that. You need to make time, and oh shit, what? Oh, it's 7 o'clock. I need to stream, but I have no idea what to stream. What shall I do? Oh, let's do this. Oh no, let's do that. I get you. I totally.
I think people. I don't think people understand how much work. Like the amount of the work that Ipsec puts into his videos is ludicrous.
Yeah, he's really. I think
it's incredible.
Yeah, I think he is busy making videos 6 hours a day or something, and then he even has one video, and then he does it. He does it weekly, and he also, of course, need to do research and need to understand fully what the box is doing, and Ipsec is really a great guy, and I hope I can get him to my stream once. I already asked TJ Null to do a kind word for me, so I hope.
I'll text him. I'll text him and be like, "Hey, you need to get on the show."
It will be really amazing if Ipsec will talk to me, as I have really.
He's pretty shy. He's pretty shy, but I'll see if I can get him to do it.
Yeah, I texted him some couple months ago with the question if he wants, but then he refused. So perhaps with you and TJ No ask him, maybe I'm lucky. I really want to know how he does those boxes and his methodology and his way of thinking. But that's maybe in the future, guys. Maybe. But thank you for answering this question, and I hope Clau1 is satisfied with the answer. But we are not done yet because he has a lot more questions, I see. Even kijken. How do you justify the cost sense as kept for different certifications?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I kind of already talked about that. I mean, so the reality is it's not priced for people. And what people need to understand about different companies is different companies have different target customers. And so, like, you just need to understand that the target market is not self-funded, new to the industry people. It's people who have jobs at the government. A government is a huge customer of SANS. But it's government customers, it's large company customers. They have programs for certain people. So they have specific programs for job switchers, like career switchers, recent women graduates, vets, so ex-armed forces. They have several different programs, and I've actually had a couple friends that have gotten into it, and I didn't have anything to do with it. They applied and did not mention me and got into it. But I have a few friends that were accepted into it, and they can be free. So a friend of mine was she was a woman that I was mentoring at a community college, and she was an electrical engineer and stopped working to take care of her kids. That was a decision that she made. And when she decided to come back many years later, she wanted a career change. And so she applied to the Immersion Academy and got in, and she got 5 free SANS classes. So like there are programs for certain people, the people that aren't funded by big companies, they have programs for them. But for the most part, the customers, their target market are people at companies, and they're not expecting people to pay for it. They're expecting companies to pay for it. And I already had the rant earlier that companies should absolutely be paying for it. So it's something that we need to normalize. It's something that we need to get companies to accept and to recognize, is that investing in their people is a good return on investment. It's not throwing money away. It's making their people who work for them better at what they do and more effective and more efficient. And in our jobs, where our job is to discover and mitigate risk that could sink the company, that could put the company out of business, it's in their best interest to have us as trained and as effective as possible.
Yeah,
So,
it's a win-win.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for answering this question, and yeah, let's go to the next one. Yes. What is the most interesting problem that you have faced in your InfoSec career?
All of them are interesting. Um,
Well,
the
if you can
most
choose,
interesting?
yeah, if you can choose one thing that really stands out,
I don't know.
perhaps just the
I think
first
the
thing
most
that pops
interesting
in.
category. So the most interesting problems that I run into is trying to figure out why somebody did something the way they did it. So I go back to hacking is not just a how and what, it's a why. And if you can figure out the why, then you can usually hack things better. And so like you can run across some misconfiguration and you can be like, well, that's dumb. They're so dumb. They shouldn't have done it this way. This is dumb. But if you figure out the why, maybe they had a good reason, or maybe the alternative was worse, or maybe if you figure out why, you can find some interesting new bug. So one example that comes to mind is we discovered that all of the passwords that we were dumping from a system were like 8 characters. And we didn't know why. Like all of them were 8 characters. And we're trying to figure out why. And the system, the first guess is that like old Solaris and old Unix truncated passwords at 8 characters. Like they just would not accept longer than 8 characters. So we're like, maybe there's an old system. And we looked at the system that we were on and no, it's modern Linux. And what we discovered is that like 2 systems up in the chain was an old Solaris system. And what we realized is that this problem didn't just affect the system that we were on, it affected basically every system that talked to that like central server. And we were able to use that problem to attack weak passwords across an entire environment. And then we were also able to help the customer and be like, hey, you really got to upgrade this system because it's causing environment-wide problems. But I think the most interesting problem ever is the problem I haven't solved yet. And so that's why I have such a hard time answering the question, is just like, I can't talk about it right now because we're in the middle of an engagement and we're on NDA, but like there's some stuff that we're troubleshooting right now that is just fascinating until we solve it. And then it's not that fascinating anymore and we move on. But I can't stress enough, solve the why, figure out why somebody's doing that. Figure out why the system behaves the way it does. And you're going to find some interesting stuff.
Well, thank you for answering this question, and I hope you're satisfied with the answer. And I think you are totally right that we need to understand the why. This is really important. Let's go to the next question. Yeah, your buddy Glasswalker asked if they are going to do the holiday hack challenge. But yeah, as we have discussed it at the beginning of the show, there will be indeed an holiday hack challenge. So I think we can better skip this one for now. My apologies, Glasswalker.
Yes, short answer is yes, they are doing it.
You can always ask him again while you two are watching your hockey game. Let's find the next question. I thought I saw some more. Yeah, yes, I have found one. What is your personal recommendation for InfoSec newbies? Yeah, besides the GSEC.
Yeah, so with regards to SANS certification apart from GSEC, it depends on what you want to do. So if you're talking about SANS certification specifically, which it seems like you are, there's different curriculums. There's like the digital forensics and incident response curriculum, there's the offensive operations curriculum, there's management curriculum, and each one of those curriculums kind of house their own information. And I know DFIR and the offensive operations both have flowcharts, which are basically, what do you want to do? What field, what job do you want to do? Here is the path of recommended certs or classes. What I will say is that it can be a little overwhelming. It's hard to know if you should do 560 or 660 or 542 or 642. But the pages for the classes are very descriptive, and the schedule, they actually break it down day by day of what you go over on which day. So look at the outline of the class and see, oh, well, I already know that. Maybe I should go up to the next course. Oh, I don't know any of that. Okay, let's do it. Or, oh, all of that is way over my head. Let's go to the earlier class. Just look at I would look for classes that look interesting on that flowchart, and just look at the pages for the classes.
Well, thank you for this advice, and thank you for answering this question. It's really great that that Sense is offering this flowchart so people can, they can check, should I go, or should I go next class, or should I do a step back? So, that's really nice that they are doing that, so people can get the best out of their, of their training. Well, again, thank you. Let's go to the next question, if there are any questions left. Here I have found one. Which side do you prefer, the offensive side or the defensive side, or you don't really have an prefer?
I prefer, well, that's hard. So I prefer doing offensive work. I think it's exciting. Like breaking into buildings is fun. And I find that it is easier for me to demonstrate why something needs to get fixed on the offensive side than on the defensive side. On the defensive side, it was, you run a vuln scanner, you evaluate some configs, and you're like, okay, these are not best practice. They need to get fixed, and our SLA is a week, so you need to get them fixed by a week. And then people are like, but why? That's dumb. That's not really a problem. Whereas in OffSec, it's like, hey, so here's our report. Here are the things that we exploited, and here's your password, or here are the credit card numbers, or whatever the thing that we stole was. And it's very apparent why they need to fix it, because here is the reason why, here are the things that we achieved. But that being said, I think too much goes into the separation of offense and defense. Our jobs, unless you're like state actor, like true offensive operations, like, it's not
nation state.
It's not separated. Our job is to protect the company we work for, or the client that hired us if you're a consultant. And so the end state is the same, is us making recommendations on how to fix gaps. And so a lot of what my team does now, I run an offensive security team, and a lot of what my team does now is what people would call purple teaming. So we do pen testing and red teaming, but we work very closely with the blue team throughout the entire engagement to make sure that they're seeing what they need to see, and that they're detecting things. And, oh, well, you didn't block us here. Maybe if you implemented this, or we changed some configs around, you could block it next time. And that is what I'm really passionate about, is driving maturity in blue team, is the entire purpose of red team.
I think you are totally right. That's one of the important part indeed, to if you launch Mimikatz, for example, that you ask them, did you see something? Did you notice something? Oh, yeah. But you should see something right now, because we are running a really dangerous tool on your network. So, yeah. Thank you for the advice. It's really a great advice. Maybe I should ask it to my company too. Let's go to the next question. If there are any more left, I think we are wrapping it up. I don't see... here, the last question, I think. How about an interesting scenario? So, did you ever have an interesting scenario while teaching? Something that really was outstanding, like, I've never made this, or I've never had this.
Yeah, so I
Oh
mean,
no.
yeah, like we do, there's interesting stuff that happens all the time. I wouldn't say anything like outlandishly wild, like especially, if you talk to John Strand, or you watch one of his videos, John taught for Sands for like 10 years, and he was teaching
Whoa.
like 10 times a year. So he's taught like, you know, thousands of people. And he just has a lot of experience doing it. So when he mentions like the 3 or 4 wild stories, that's like out of 100 classes. And so I've taught maybe a dozen classes. And some funny stuff here and there, but nothing super wild. The big thing is like, you get, you said apart from people running away to Disneyland, it's like the people that, just disappear from class for a couple days and then come back and be like, yeah, I needed to work. And I'm like, I'm sure that's what happened. Like it has nothing to do with the fact that we're like, in downtown San Francisco or something. Like, like the people I think are the most fun part of that job, and just meeting new people and learning about them. I had a group of military in one of my classes that were just really sharp folks. Thought they were going to win the CTF, and then they just did not do well on the CTF. And CTFs are one of those things that if you go down a rabbit hole that isn't successful, then you can just burn so much time, and it can happen to anyone. So they just and they weren't communicating. That's the other thing is in a team-based CTF you need to be communicating, and I've seen groups where they struggle the entire week, having a hard time learning the concepts, but they get together and they just talk through it and they demolish everyone else. And I always love seeing that, like the people that came in maybe a little too low for the class, not enough knowledge, to really be in the right place, but they buckle down and they learn and they stick with it. I always offer to stay after if people need more help, and almost nobody takes me up on it. But occasionally somebody's like, yeah, if you don't mind 15-20 minutes, and I sit with them and they apply themselves and they come in and they just annihilate the CTF. And I love seeing that too.
Yeah, I can.
But yeah, no wild stories, no like broken air conditioners or I've heard John tell stories about like the power going out. And he's like, okay, everybody open your books. I'm just going to teach this from memory. And he just teaches it from memory, and that's a wild story, but it has not happened to me.
Well, you can perhaps prepare for it if it happens.
We prepare all the time, yeah. Hopefully I'll handle it as well as you did.
I can imagine that you are giving a class. You know the name of your students. You maybe are following your students on Twitter, and they say, "Yeah, sorry, I can't come today." And you check your Twitter, and you suddenly see a picture from Disneyland with a bucket of fries. Say, "Hey, I'm joining Disneyland." I was like, "What the fuck?" Okay. No, but thank you for answering the question, and I hope Clau is satisfied with the answer. And I think that was the last question. So yeah, it's time to end this session. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed the questions from the audience.
Yeah.
And from your...
This was great. Thank you so much for inviting me. This was fun.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to do this with you. And I hope you and your friend Glasswalker will enjoy the hockey game.
All right. Yeah,
well,
thanks a bunch.
Well, have a great evening, and yeah, whatever you are going to do right now, good luck or have fun. And again, thank you so much. And I hope we can do it in the future, perhaps again.
Yeah, it'll be a good time.
Well,
have a good night.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye. Well, guys, that was the session. Thank you all for watching. Unfortunately, I'm not going to stream longer, so I'm not going to stream any lessons today, as I need to focus on my final project so I can graduate. So, again, thank you all for watching, and if Derek is still watching, thank you again for today's session, and I wish you all a great evening.